They discovered the shocking truth about Daniel's courage, what happened in the lion's den. Few knew what truly happened that night. Under the blinding gaze of a crescent moon, whispers of fate lingered in the air. The city of Babylon, magnificent yet ominous, buzzed with uncertainty. Great walls towered, shadows darted, and hearts raced. Daniel, a man of unfathomable faith, stood accused. His enemies watched with greedy eyes. A decree had been set. No one could pray to any god but the king. But Daniel, fearless as a lion, defied them. He prayed, his heart pounding with each word as the sun dipped below the horizon. Daniel's resolve only intensified. How had he come to this? He remembered the glories and challenges of his life. But on this fateful night, it felt like the entire world held its breath. The lion's den awaited him, an arena of dread, where roars echoed and darkness thickened. It wasn't merely a pit. It was a tomb of despair, shadowed by the malice of those who wanted him gone. One by one, the guards shackled his hands, their grips cold and unyielding. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Daniel was led to the den. Were they witnesses of a martyrdom or about to see a miracle? Fear gripped the hearts of some as Daniel descended, heart racing like a mad drum. In that moment, time stood still. The air grew thick, eyes widened. What would happen next? Did the lions sense his courage? Would they become his allies or his brutal executioners? The heavy stone rolled into place above Daniel, sealing him in. It echoed eerily. Silence enveloped the onlookers, hearts pounding in unison. They waited. Every breath felt sacred. Would Daniel's faith conquer death? The fate of a faithful man hung in the balance, his every prayer echoing in that dark pit. And then, a shudder rippled through the depths. What would emerge from the darkness? And who would be left standing at dawn? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the moon cast its silver light upon the den, a heavy stillness fell over the city. Outside, a crowd of spectators held their collective breath, their eyes fixed on the stone that had sealed Daniel's fate. Whispers flitted between them like anxious shadows. What lay beyond that entrance shrouded in darkness? The minds of those who once condemned Daniel churned with doubt. Yet it was too late. The decree was ironclad, their hearts heavy with the weight of their actions. Down in the den, time whispered differently to Daniel. For him, the darkness was not void but filled with the flickering echoes of faith. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply, summoning the essence of each prayer he had uttered over the years. With every heartbeat, he felt a warmth grow within him, a quiet assurance cloaked in courage. In that abyss, Daniel was not alone. Could the presence of the Almighty be felt even amidst roaring lions? As moments passed, Daniel's senses sharpened. The otherworldly silence was abruptly interrupted by a low rumbly growl that seemed to emanate not from a fearsome beast, but from the core of creation itself. The air shifted, carrying with it an unexplainable energy. He opened his eyes, adjusting to the dimness, and was greeted by pairs of glowing eyes peering from the shadows, hungry yet strangely calm. Perhaps these creatures, too, recognized the weight of destiny. Drawing from the depths of his faith, Daniel reached out his hand, not in fear, but in fearless hope. What if these lions, the very symbols of his impending doom, became a testament of divine intervention? In that place of terror and uncertainty, could his steadfast belief transform the fangs of death into instruments of God's glory? But the questions didn't cease. Why did the Lord not intervene before he was cast into this pit? Was there a purpose in allowing such despair? As thoughts raced through him, the growls softened, replaced by an eerie stillness, and Daniel waited. The tension of the moment dripped like honey slow, deliberate unveiling of possibilities from beyond the stone. The crowd remained restless, their anticipation hanging thick in the air. What thoughts danced through the minds of those who once condemned him? Were they contemplating the testimonies of their hearts or merely the hopes for their own survival? Did they realize they were witnesses to not just potential ruin but the unfolding of something divinely monumental? Each moment seemed to stretch into eternity as Daniel spoke silently into the darkened space around him. In a world wrought with fears and uncertainties, he had a choice. Would he succumb to despair, or would he serve as an unyielding beacon of faith? As dawn approached, lingering shadows whispered of miracles yet to come. And as the first flickers of light began to breach the horizon, a powerful question emerged. What transformative power would arise from this night, and would the world ever truly perceive the depths of courage born from unwavering faith? As the dawn light seeped into the cracks of the stone den, Daniel remained still, his heart tempered by a steady faith. The soft glow illuminated the furrows and markings on the ground, a testament to the passage of time, a canvas on which the fate of man and beast hung in delicate balance. The lions, with their glistening eyes, turned to him, their curious stares seeming to convey a shared understanding. In that moment, a sacred silence enveloped the den as if all of creation paused to witness a pivotal moment in the divine narrative. Daniel's mind wandered to the stories of old. Tales of giants falling, seas parting, and fires unscathed. Had not every faith-filled journey begun with a step into uncertainty? With his palms pressed firmly against the earth, he inhaled deeply, drawing courage from the memory of those who had braved their own trials. As he opened his eyes, a thought-struck him, a question whispered in the stillness. Could this ordeal be another chapter in a long story of deliverance, one that would echo through the ages and reach the hearts of kings and commoners alike? But would any listening ear comprehend the depths of such a revelation? The men who had conspired against him, now stricken with doubt, were caught in a web woven by their own intentions. Their hearts, once hardened against him, pulsed with a strange hope for redemption. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting bold patterns of light and shadow upon the ground, Daniel recognized that his encounter with the lions might serve a greater purpose beyond himself. Strangely, the beasts did not advance toward him. Instead, they settled comfortably in their places, their once menacing presence transformed into something oddly serene. Could it be? Was God orchestrating peace in a place meant for death? Daniel dared to believe the unthinkable, felt the embrace of the divine encompassing him, surrounding him with warmth and assurance that transcended the immediate peril. Yet, doubt still lingered, teetering on the edges of his consciousness. Why must he endure this trial? Why hadn't deliverance come before he faced the clenched jaws of fear? Perhaps God's calming presence was part of the very trial, meant to strengthen, redirect, and refine him. Could it be that even as his body sat ensnared, his spirit soared through the tapestry of faith, weaving through shadows to find new light? As voices rose from outside the den, Daniel closed his eyes and prayed once more, not for his immediate release but for wisdom and understanding of God's grand design. He envisioned the hearts of those gathered above him, mixed with anticipation and dread. Would they come to see the truth behind their actions and the consequences of their faithlessness? Would they discover, as he had, that God's hand could turn a night of despair into a dawn of revelation? And in his contemplation, a perplexing thought emerged. What is the true nature of faith? Is it merely believing in divine rescue, or is it trusting in a higher purpose amidst the storm? The lions remained still, a reflection of his inner peace amidst the turmoil, urging him to face this day not simply as one who hopes to survive, but as one who stands as a testament to unwavering belief. As the sun broke free from the horizon, bathing the den in golden light, Daniel pondered. What unseen worlds would arise from the ashes of his trial, and could the hearts of those once against him turn towards a path of redemption? In the face of the unknown, what seeds of faith might be sown that would flourish long after this day? The sun continued its ascent, casting long shadows and brilliant hues across the stone floor of the den. Daniel found solace in the warmth that wrapped around him. The lions, magnificent yet tranquil, created a surreal tableau that stirred something deep within him, a potent blend of fear and reverence for the Creator's unfathomable ways. Stripped of his earthly status as a respected advisor and scholar, he was now merely a man confronting his mortality, nestled among beasts that could easily extinguish his life. Yet here he was, inexplicably at peace, outside. The voices of his accusers grew louder, mingling with the murmurs of the crowd that had gathered to witness what they had hoped would be his demise. What stories would be spun, he wondered, if he emerged unscathed? Would those clamoring for his ruin accept the deeper truths hidden in this calamity? Or would their hearts remain hardened, unwilling to see beyond their own crafted narratives? In that sacred silence, he could almost hear the lessons woven into the fabric of his trials, the stories of faith, courage, and divine intervention that echoed through the ages. He remembered the beloved scriptures of his people, filled with the promises of God's faithfulness. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had once stood before a fiery furnace, trusting wholly in the God they served, and they had not been consumed. Could his ordeal in the den of lions deepen such an understanding for an entire nation? With each passing moment, Daniel's spirit uplifted, revealing a profound awareness of connection not just with God, but with all humanity caught in the web of faith and doubt. The human heart, he realized, often wrestles with fear and hope in tandem. It is easy to proclaim faith in the daylight when shadows linger just at the edges, but true faith thrives when surrounded by uncertainty. The ground beneath him felt alive with expectancy as he felt the tension around him shift. Could it be that God was not only preparing Daniel for the moment that lay ahead but also revealing truths to those who sought to bring him harm? They would witness this event and could not help but confront their own inner dilemmas. The weight of their ambitions, the consequences of their decisions, and the possibility of redemption through their actions in his heart. Daniel offered a prayer not just for himself, but for his enemies, those blinded by jealousy and fear. He pondered the portrayal of an unseen divine presence keeping the lions at bay, commanding the hearts of beasts to mirror the peace he felt. What if this moment served to illuminate a pathway of understanding for those who had erred? As the murmurs of the crowd crescendoed, Daniel's thoughts returned to the hearts above. Would they respond to the divine whispers, or allow fear to choke the seeds of potential growth embedded in this tapestry of events? What if their eyes were open to see that even a moment of despair could be redefined by acts of faith? Amidst the stillness, one lion drew closer, its haunting gaze piercing through the shadows. In its watchful stare, Daniel sensed a profound reflection of his own soul's struggle and triumph. Were they not both creatures birthed from the same divine breath? In seeking the truth of his own journey, he saw a fragmented mirroring of courage, perhaps even a calling for those hearts above to embrace mercy over malice. And there, rooted in the den of lions, he felt the gravity of a question rise within him. What transformation awaits those who dare to witness faith in its most fragile state, and how might it redefine the narrative of one's life when a heart chooses to rise above fear? As anticipation thickened the air, Daniel realized that the real revelation of this moment lay not solely in his deliverance, but in the awakening of understanding for all who bore witness to this sacred encounter. The weight of silence enveloped Daniel, thickening the air around him as whispers of the outside world drifted through the cracks of the stone den. Crowds had gathered, but his focus remained unshaken, rooted in an unyielding peace. It was as if time itself had come to a standstill, allowing him to dwell in an otherworldly presence far beyond the danger that surrounded him as the lion approached. Its powerful yet graceful movements captivated Daniel. Here, amid these formidable creatures of nature, he sensed an uncanny kinship. Their primal instincts mirrored his human struggle, a coexistence of fear and fidelity to something larger than themselves. He wondered if even they, in their savage beauty, understood the gravity of his predicament. Did they, too, feel the weight of choice in every moment, the responsibility of their nature, and the possibility of grace when faced with judgment? In the shadowy confines of the den, visions of his past circled like autumn leaves caught in a gentle breeze. Memories of his homeland flooded his mind, the vibrant streets of Jerusalem, the laughter of friends and family gathered under the olive trees, the deep reverberations of prayers offered with hope and longing. He considered how far he had journeyed since his exile into Babylon, a land that bore both the brilliance of cultures and the darkness of ambition run amok. Each step had shaped his faith, carving out an understanding of a God who could transcend borders, language, and circumstance to mold a heart for service and steadfastness. Yet, the present was his crucible. Waves of uncertainty crested around him. Would he emerge unmarked, untouched by the journey that seemed to stretch before him like an uncharted abyss? The lion now settled nearby, its breathing synchronized with Daniel's own heartbeat. It was as if the universe held its breath, waiting for a truth to surface that in that contemplative stillness. A revelation blossomed within him. What if this encounter went beyond personal salvation? What if it served as a divine message echoing through time, an answer to the question of suffering, a challenge to the inevitability of doubt and despair? The scriptures were rife with moments of anguish transformed into announcements of hope. Could this moment be another? Daniel closed his eyes, embracing the deeper uncertainties that his circumstances posed. Here, in the depths of despair, he felt the burgeoning light of faith, a subtle but profound tickle of courage igniting within him. Was it possible that this seemingly dire situation was a mechanism of redemption, a catalyst for awakening? In the tapestry of human experiences, he envisioned this den of lions becoming a new altar of understanding, not merely a place of imminent self-destruction. The clamor outside faded at that moment, voices intertwining with a divine whisper that urged him to observe the souls assembled in that crowd. Leaders, peasants, and the curious. Each carried their own chains of conviction, fears, and hopes. But were they ready to embrace the truth latent within this trial? Could they perceive the power of faith that dismantled fear, even amidst the roars of chaos? Forgotten were the intentions of his accusers. A new question bubbled forth from the recesses of his mind, rising like a dew-laden dawn. What if the lesson buried within this encounter transcended Daniel himself? What if it illumined the path of understanding for a nation faltering in darkness? As he felt the heavy gaze of the lion upon him, a gentle reminder of the precarious balance of fear and trust, Daniel pondered the intricacies of divine timing and purpose. Would the outcomes of this moment spark a revelatory fire in the hearts of those observing? In the space between reality and awaited deliverance, he dared to ask himself, how might the essence of fear be rewritten to become a story of courage, and what new narratives would arise if hearts chose understanding over hate? The unanswered depths of these questions flowed through him, stirring a hunger for transformation beyond this hour, beyond the den, into the very fabric of lives yet untold. Daniel remained still, suspended in the tension of the moment, as if the world around him had blended into a soft hue of silence. The lion lay before him, a creature of primal strength. Yet in this instant, it seemed as though they were both guardians of a truth yet unspoken. The air was thick, pregnant with the potential of divine revelation, while the echoes of muted voices outside swirled like leaves caught in an autumn gust. What does it mean to be truly courageous? Daniel contemplated that question as he listened to the rustle of the crowd. He had faced peril before, but never like this. This moment was not merely about surviving. It was about standing in the presence of greatness, whether it was the fierce lion or the very essence of faith itself. He pondered the stories of those who had come before him. The prophets, the judges, each wrestling with fear and finding strength in surrender to a greater purpose. As he exchanged glances with the lion, a flicker of understanding sparked between them. Daniel saw in those deep, amber eyes the wild heart of creation, a reminder that existence itself was a dance between ferocity and grace. The arch of the lion's back and the rhythm of its breathing suggested a connection deeper than words, a unity in struggle that transcended the barrier of species. Might it be, he questioned, that creation yearns for recognition of its plight, much like he yearned for acknowledgement of his faith? Outside the den, tensions surged as the crowd shifted, restless with fear and anticipation. Daniel heard the high-pitched voices of the accusers, fraught with indignation, questioning how one man's defiance could disrupt an entire kingdom. Yet, did they not understand that courage often feels like madness until it unfurls into something larger, a clarion call for transformation? With each breath, he sensed the presence of his God enveloping him, a faith in the unseen weaving through the air. It was an intimate reminder that courage was not always loud. Sometimes, it whispered through the stillness, urging those who were willing to listen. What if his silence in the den spoke volumes to those souls clamoring for understanding outside? Could they discern the echoes of courage in the stillness that enveloped him, a quiet strength that begged to illuminate a path through their own fear? In those moments reflected upon, Daniel's heart surged with a growing understanding of his own purpose. This den was not merely a place of execution. It could also be the threshing floor where fears were sifted from faith, where anguish was transformed into redemption. He felt an unquenchable hope that maybe, just maybe, his willingness to face the lion could become a testament for all gathered there. The weight of unresolved questions loomed larger than fear itself. Daniel envisioned the eyes of the onlookers, some filled with skepticism, others with hope, all yearning for a glimmer of understanding amidst their doubts. What fear might rise within them if they chose to witness his testimony instead of merely judging him? And what transformation lay in choosing to embrace divine purpose over impending doom? As the lion unfurled its massive limbs and let out a soft rumble, Daniel felt the stirrings of purpose awaken in him. Perhaps, through this encounter, a new narrative could be born, one where fear did not dictate the course of fate, but rather illuminated a path towards courage and faith. What if this moment could serve as a reminder that every trial holds the potential for revelation? In that profound stillness, Daniel breathed deeply, sensing the intertwining fates of all present. He realized that the lion's presence was not only a test of his resolve but an opportunity for the many souls outside to redefine their understanding of courage. As they waited and watched, would they see him as a mere man or as a vessel for a glimmer of divine purpose? Finally, imbued with a sense of peace that defied the dire circumstances before him, Daniel's heart pulsed once more with a question, one that resonated across time and tied their destinies together. In the face of fear, what truths remain to be uncovered when hearts dare to believe that courage might look different than we expect? The silence of the den seemed to stretch, extending into the corners of the universe, as if time itself paused to witness a sacred exchange. Daniel, gazing into the lion's eyes, began to understand that courage was not merely an act. It was a state of Baina willingness to embrace vulnerability in the face of overwhelming odds. In that lion's gaze he felt a beckoning, a calling to rise above his own fear and to embody the very essence of faith. As the lion moved, its powerful body flowing with grace, Daniel noted the rhythm of its movements, a dance of survival and existence, echoing the very struggles of those outside. Each ripple of muscle conveyed not just strength, but the weight of expectation that shared a common bond with humanity itself. Did the onlookers understand that they, too, were caught in a dance of their own, tangled in their fears? Above the din created by the gathered masses, a surge of clarity enveloped Daniel. He thought of the many lives he had touched with his simple acts of faith and devotion, and a thought arose within him. Perhaps this moment was not just about his survival, but about a collective awakening. The crowd beyond the bars of his prison yearned for freedom, not only from their rulers but from the shackles of their own doubts. What was it, he wondered, that kept them tethered to despair? Was it not fear of the unknown? As the dark shape of the lion shifted closer, a low growl resonated within the den. It was a gentle reminder of the power held within being true to oneself. In this sanctified solitude, Daniel closed his eyes, letting the world around him fade into nothingness. He breathed, feeling the air fill his lungs, a divine rhythm that synced with the heartbeat of the lion. It was fear. It was spirit. It was testimony, a palpable truth reverberating through the silence. He remained steadfast, whispering a prayer of affirmation deep within. His faith was not a loud proclamation. It was an unwavering conviction that even in the darkness, divine light was present. It dawned on him, as if unveiled by the breath of the lion, that this moment could evoke a profound realization for those observing. If they saw not just a man in peril but a vessel of faith, how might their own perceptions shift? Could it be that courage was infectious? That through this trial, they might find the flicker of hope ignited in their own hearts, like kindling waiting for a spark in the night? Daniel considered the ripple effect of courage, a wave of restoration washing over lives, leaving behind transformed hearts and renewed spirits. Outside the den, the voices grew louder, calling for his demise. Yet Daniel sensed something different brewing amongst the uproar. Echoes of resolve mingled with fear, a readiness to witness history rewritten by his silent surrender. He thought of the whispers that might flit through the crowd. What if courage isn't an absence of fear, but the acknowledgement of both fear and faith coexisting? In that stillness, the lion lay beside him, no longer merely a figure of impending doom, but a companion in this shared journey. Was the true miracle of this moment not in his potential triumph, but in how openness to the unexpected could draw forth courage and understanding in others? What truths could emerge from the union of lion and man, locked in a pause that painted the space between fate and choice? The lion grumbled softly, a sound filled with ancient wisdom. Daniel felt a need to share this intuition beyond the confines of the den. How could he express this moment, a testament of belief wrapped in the cloth of existence? His heart pounded with a new resolve, and he wondered, could vulnerability become the bridge that connected his fear to their awakening? As the shadows danced on the walls, Daniel's spirit soared, and a sense of purpose enveloped him, inviting him to reflect. In the tension of the unknown, the question lingered like the faint wisps of morning fog. What if the essence of courage lay not in the act of defiance but in the willingness to be wholly and authentically present in the face of insurmountable odds? In the quiet that wrapped around the den, a moment slipped into an eternity as Daniel felt a surge of resolve wash over him. The lion, a creature of both fierceness and grace, now embodied a profound truth, one he sensed his own life had been inching toward all along. As if the cosmic forces of creation aligned for this singular encounter, he could feel the weight of history resting not only on his shoulders but upon the hearts of all who gathered outside. The roars of the crowd throbbed through the air, their expectations a tempest of emotion, yet Daniel found himself anchored in the stillness of the lion's presence. It was in this sanctuary of the den that he began to comprehend a sacred moment was unfolding, an opportunity to shift perspectives, to unravel the threads of fear, doubt, and belief that had long captivated the souls of men. Blessed are the meek, echoed his thoughts, the gospel wisdom unfurling like wings in his spirit. The meek, he realized, did not shun fear but embraced it, allowing it to guide them along the path of true courage. What if his situation, one that radiated peril, was indeed an invitation to witness the transformation that comes from embracing vulnerability in the presence of great challenges? Could the very act of facing what should terrify him burgeon courage in those who clung to their doubts? The great cat beside him emitted a low, almost comforting growl, a reminder that even within ferocity lay the depth of faith. It was an unexpected juxtaposition. Two beings, so vastly different, sharing this space of uncertainty. Daniel contemplated the relationship they mirrored. How might the wildness of the lion complement the steadfastness of his faith? Could this dynamic serve as an illustration of a greater truth, that in the lion's strength and Daniel's faith, a shared destiny beckoned? Outside the den, voices surged, rising and falling like the tide, some laced with disdain, others laced with an unsettling sense of intrigue. It was then, as Daniel listened, that he picked up on the fervor of a different kind of energy, whisper of connection coursing through the throng. Was the crowd beginning to awaken to their own role in this narrative? Were they not merely spectators but players within an unfolding drama of faith and courage? A thought blossomed in his mind. What if he was not the only one being tested? As the spectators placed their collective judgment upon him, could they also be scrutinizing their own hearts? This moment of confrontation might just expose the inner struggles of each soul present. Were they, too, enveloped in their fierce battles with doubt, fear, or despair, seeking a path forward? In a world caught in the throes of decisions and the fear of consequences, Daniel understood this was a pivotal moment for all involved. He began to gather the fragments of his thoughts, weaving them into a tapestry of hope. Perhaps his steadfastness could serve as a guide for those gathered in judgment. What if he could inspire the crowd to look beyond their expectations, to see the undercurrents of faith that lay dormant within them? The lion shifted slightly, as if urging him to act. If I endure this trial with grace, Daniel pondered, what message might I send forth into their lives? What transformation can arise from a single act of faith whispered against the storm of fear? With renewed conviction, Daniel felt an electric spark ignite in his chest, and for the first time, he sensed a deep communion with the lion, a silent agreement that they were allies against the tide of doubt. It was then that clarity seized him again. His positioning within the den was not just about personal salvation but the awakening of a generation. Could the essence of his courage become a rallying cry that awakened hope in the hearts of the broken? What uncharted territory might unfold in the lives of those who witnessed him choosing faith over fear? As the shadows flickered with the dying light outside, Daniel took a breath, calmed by the understanding that there was something profound happening, not just for him, but for every person caught in the web of their own doubt beyond the bars. In a world that often turned away from vulnerability, what would happen if he openly displayed his faith, weaving it into the very fabric of this defining moment? The uncertainty hung in the air, heavy yet vibrant. Each passing moment felt like a prelude to something greater, lingering on the edge of revelation. What if the true miracle lay not in his survival but in the awakening of a spirit long dormant? Would his choice to embrace vulnerability become an invitation for others to examine their own chains of fear, and in doing so, ignite a flame of courage that could change the course of their lives? As Daniel stood in the den, the roars from the crowd began to blend with the steady cadence of his heartbeat, echoing the tumult within. Each pulse resonated with a profound yearning to transcend the mere act of endurance. He felt the weight of expectation. The onlookers had pegged him as a man on trial, but perhaps, in truth, each soul could feel the invisible yoke of their own trials pressing down upon them. The lion beside him, majestic yet serene, allowed its golden gaze to penetrate the fabric of Daniel's being, as if recognizing the sacred pact forming between them in those moments of stillness. It was not just a creature of flesh and instinct. In that moment, it became a vessel of ancient wisdom, a reminder of the primal strength that rested within vulnerability. Daniel marveled at this Connect-Iona symbol of defiance against the fears that shackled so many souls outside. With each breath, he absorbed the sense of inevitability that surrounded the event unfolding before him. The lion's warm breath mixed with the cool air, mirroring the tension outside the storm of human emotion ready to break loose. Daniel pondered what awaited him when he finally stepped beyond the den. What awaited the hearts of their assembled multitude, yearning for guidance amid chaos. Suddenly, a voice erupted from the crowd, mocking with contempt, drowning out the encroaching dawn. "What hope can you offer, Daniel? Do you think your faith will protect you from the jaws of death?" The taunts flew like arrows, piercing through the stillness, yet rather than retreating, Daniel felt a surge of heat race through him. For that very question exposed the collective unease they all harbored. "Perhaps," he called back, his voice unwavering. "My faith does not shield me from peril, but invites me to confront it. In this battle I stand as I am, flawed, yet resolute. For it is in embracing fear that I find communion with the divine. Just as this lion embraces its nature." At that moment, the lion responded, letting out a resonant growl that rippled through the air, vibrating with the truth Daniel had just spoken. As the sound reverberated through the den, it seemed to ignite a flicker of awakening among the onlookers. Faces once clouded with disdain began shifting towards contemplation. Understanding whispered through the air like a gentle breeze turning leaves. What if his confrontation vicariously encouraged some in the crowd to wrestle with their own inadequacies, an invitation to shed their superficial judgments and delve into the depths of their souls? As the murmuring grew softer, possibility stirred like the first rays of dawn creeping across the horizon. Daniel's heart soared with newfound courage as he grasped the thread connecting him to the lion and the people outside. Might this lion and I be reflections of a deeper truth? He wondered. His voice broke through the growing quiet. We are not merely participants in this story, but co-authors of our destiny. Facing our challenges, we write together a testament to faith, strength, and transformation. With each declaration, Daniel could sense a shifted collective inhalation. He longed for them to see it, to grasp the parallels of their lives intertwined with his, just as he had with the lion. But as exhilarating as this moment felt, doubt still lingered within him. Could courage ignite not just within himself but also in the hearts of all watching? As the sun began to break the horizon, illuminating the den with soft, golden hues, the tension simmered, ripe with unarticulated emotions. Pondering over the unfamiliar roles they each played, Daniel felt a profound heaviness in the air. Would they rise together, united by a burgeoning understanding of their own resilience, or would fear diminish this dawning potential? In that shimmering moment, Daniel found himself yearning for a deeper revelation. Was his battle merely a solitary struggle, or were they intertwining destinies poised for transformation? The uncertainty of what awaited loomed like the silhouettes of dark trees against the brightening sky. The question echoed in his heart. If courage could be contagious, who among the crowd would be willing to stand in their own truth, inspired to embrace the lion's roar? As dawn's gentle light filled the lion's den, illuminating the space where shadows had ruled, Daniel sensed the weight of history bearing down upon him, intertwining with the hopes and fears of those who watched from above. It was a moment suspended in a collision of worlds where the brave would confront the powerless, and courage might reshape destinies. The crowd's chanting, initially filled with anger and derision, began to soften. Daniel's heart quickened with the realization that he stood at the intersection of despair and hope, as if the divine had orchestrated this crucible to unveil the profound truths hidden within. It was no longer just about survival. It was about awakening. "Fear not this lion," he called out, locking eyes with the majestic beast at his side. "For its strength beckons us to confront our darkest selves, just as my faith invites me to uncover the light within." His voice rang clear, a clarion call echoing against the stone walls. In that instant, a strange resonance sparked within the crowd. Faces previously marred by animosity now bore expressions of contemplation, a flicker of recognition dawning upon them. Daniel could almost see the cogs of understanding turning a revelation taking root. This moment could redefine their lives just as it was defining his. "Each of us has a lion inside," he continued, gesturing toward the great creature beside him. "A mighty force meant to guide us through the tribulations of our existence. What waits in the darkness is not merely death's grip, but the opportunity to grow in courage, to weave our own narratives filled with redemption. Your judgments bind you. Your faith could soar." His words, fervent and raw, clawed at the hearts of those who had come to gloat, nudging them to confront their own fears. In witnessing Daniel's boldness within the jaws of peril, perhaps they could awaken their own long-dormant faith. As murmurs of realization spread among them, Daniel felt a charged energy coursing through the air. "If my faith can tether me to the divine in the face of such trials, can yours not also rise to meet you?" Daniel pressed on, emboldened by the spirit within him and the watchful eyes of the lion. "Let this moment be a testament, not just of my deliverance, but of our collective awakening. What might we accomplish when we cast away the chains of doubt?" With every heart gripped by his words, the atmosphere transformed. The onlookers shivered as if finally allowing the sunlight to penetrate ages of shadowy doubt. Could they open their hearts to courage inspired by faith? Could they choose hope and veneration over hatred and fear? Suddenly, a voice echoed from the back of the crowd, hesitant yet brimming with courage. "We will follow you, Daniel. Show us the way." It was as if the entire throng, fueled by that singular declaration, started to lean into their own yearning for Chanhea, collective stepping forward rather than pulling away. Within the den, Daniel fixed his gaze upon the lion, now more than just a creature of instinct. It had transformed into an emblem of perseverance, a fellow companion in this divine dance of faith. In unity, they began to embody hope, not through might, but through their very presence together. As if sensing the shift, the lion stood tall, letting out a powerful roar that reverberated through the very core of Babylon, shaking the spectators to their core. It was not a roar of savagery, but of strength and solidarity, a testament that echoed Daniel's resolve to embrace faith amidst the storm. The towering stone above him, once a lid sealing his fate, now felt more like a threshold into the light. The voices of the crowd melded together, igniting a chorus of cries that reverberated around the den. "Faith will guide us. Courage will uplift us." In that sacred symbiosis, something remarkable began to unfold. Mirroring the metamorphosis within, dawn broke in a magnificent display, an explosion of light washing over the stones, illuminating each face in the crowd. All were connected, standing at the brink of transformation, awakened to the power of choice. and the strength of unity. With newfound clarity, Daniel knew that this was the profound revelation he had sought, the purpose behind his night in the lion's den. It was not only a test of his own faith but a catalyst for a collective awakening. His trial transcended the self, becoming a rallying point for all who dared to confront their fears as the last vestiges of darkness melted away. Casting brilliant hues across the sky, Daniel declared with unwavering faith, "Let this day be marked not by the fear that was, but by the hope that has ignited within us. We shall rise. Together, we will write a new narrative of courage, faith, and redemption." And with that declaration, the miraculous complexity of life surged forth. What began as desperation morphed into a grounded plea for unity and strength. Daniel's faith transcended the boundaries of his circumstance, setting forth a ripple that would transcend ages. United, they emerged from this momenthe through the den, and they through their hearts lifted. The story of a man saved from the claws of despair morphed into a renaissance of faith, and together they would echo through history, awakening generations yet untold. In the moments that followed, as shadows surrendered to the light, they discovered something truly powerful. That even amidst the fiercest trials, faith can illuminate even the darkest of paths, forging transformation out of fear, and crafting courage into the hearts of all who dare to believe.